Okay, welcome to our first ever TSB podcast where we're serving up hot transformation insights with no greasy aftertaste.
Oh, God.
Guaranteed. Someone told me it was fries with SAP. Is that right? Is that what we're doing? No?
Did you say greasy?
Yes.
I don't want to be associated with greasy.
Okay.
If not.
Okay, there we go. This is going to be bad.
Oh, how bad. Oh, gosh. There's out there. Cut this.
Okay. So welcome everybody to TSP's first ever podcast. We've been talking about this for a while. We wanted to bring some great guest hosts together on a podcast to share some valuable insights about everything about SAP. I think we're still coming up with a title for our podcast, but what we want to say is we want to talk about today is Rise of SAP Insights from the Front Line. So there's a lot to talk about within SAP, whether it's success factors, BTP, everything along your business transformation journey. I've got two guest hosts today who's going to help us share some of their experiences, insights, direct communication concerns with customers. Christine Rampa, who has been with SAP in sales leadership roles for many, many years, just joined us in October. And welcome, Christine. You've had over, I believe, 14 years of experience in SAP worlds doing software sales. Very, very happy for you that you've joined our team as a partner now. And welcome, Christine.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Great. In addition, we've got Sandeep Mathur, who's had over 25 years experience in the SAP field, designing solutions, anything. He's our go-to guy. Anything that we want to talk about SAP and S4, he's always the person that we go to, and he has all these insights and able to answer a lot of questions from a technical standpoint and a business standpoint as well. So welcome, Sandeep.
Thank you.
I like the bell.
Yeah, there you go.
It's time to take communion.
Yeah. Let's start out with you, Christine. I think that one of the things that we hear a lot from different customers is, what are their concerns about moving to Rise? Maybe you can share with us. I think one of the things that we're focusing on in this episode is some insights. What are we hearing directly on the front lines from customers? What are their challenges? What are their concerns? What have you been hearing when you've been talking to customers?
Well, there's so many, right? So, I've been working with SAP customers for 14 years. Again, 12 of those years were at SAP with customers. And I think, the interesting thing about ERP is, it really is the heart and soul of a business. So when you hear customers starting to really kick the tires on either embarking on a new ERP journey or moving off of legacy, there's usually something compelling that's happening within the business. No one just rips out ERP. There's got to be something that's happening. So whether it maybe wasn't deployed properly the first time, whether they're maybe entering in new markets, maybe the business is growing so fast that their current system can't scale. I also think too, a lot of M&A activity. There's a number of reasons why a customer would really take on this journey, mainly because it's quite an undertaking. It affects every line of business, every work stream is affected, and no longer do companies have an appetite for lengthy, painful IT projects that take 3, 4, 5 years to get value realization out of their investment. So, a lot of times, excuse me, you sit down, you listen to the customers, you find out, what's really happening and why are we sitting down and meeting today? What's really happening? And really listening to the customers and understanding from their perspective where they're at and what's motivating them. So, that's just kind of a first stab at it. And, I think that over the course of the last, and I don't know, Sandeep, maybe you can kind of back me up on this. I would say the last 8 years or so has been around the time that, S4 started kind of making its way into the market. It started becoming more ECC suite on HANA, and then it moved into, S4, private cloud, public cloud. There's been many iterations of the go-to-market strategy, and ultimately here we are today with Rise, which is this really great bundled offering that helps customers really get to where they need to be with their journey, off of legacy over to the cloud. So I don't know, Sandeep, if maybe you want to kind of double click a little bit on more about what Rise is.
Sure, Christine. Very valid points, thoughts. Yes, for the last 6-8 years, we have seen customers move for main two reasons. One is the digital core itself as the foundation for S4, and that has been the prime. And the cloud has made it more relevant now with Rise, because with AI coming in, LLMs coming in, data has become more important. Access to that for various applications upfront. So that's the reason a lot of customers are moving towards cloud. So Rise for SAP has become much more relevant now.
I have a question, Christine, about the follow-up on that in terms of some of the concerns that customers may have. What have you heard in terms of needing some assistance in developing an ROI for that project to get internal buy-in and stakeholders? How can we help customers? Have they expressed that to you, and that, hey, we can't undertake a project of this size or this scope unless we can get buy-in, and how do we do that? How do we do that?
Yeah, I mean, again, these are big conversations, and they have to be sold. Just like we have to, build a business case to marshal resources towards our own projects and things like that, right? Same goes for our customers, and these projects don't happen overnight. So one of the great things that we can do, and especially with locking arms with SAP and the customer, TSP, we can reach, lean in and really get the customer's information, get their data, get their financials, and really develop a really strong business case and an ROI that's not self-serving, that says, hey, here's all the reasons why you should be doing this project, and here's what you're really going to get out of the system. And here's the value you're going to see, and really quantify the investment. A lot of times too, there's many ways to quantify the investment outside of just, here's the return you're going to get, but also what is your speed to innovation, your speed to scale in so many other areas that you can't really do when you're working in a on-prem legacy system. So, they used to talk about your grandfather's ERP. It's SAP is not that anymore, right? And so it's continuing to redefine that and in a really fun place right now too. So how do we really arm our businesses with the ability to take that forward to the powers that be and to the stakeholders that make these decisions, and help them sell it internally so they can actually get the systems in place to help the business run better.
Okay, great. Sandeep, once a customer agrees on a scope, or do we ink a deal, what are some of the challenges you're hearing in terms of getting the project started? What are you hearing from customers, and what do you advise them? What are some of the challenges that they bring up to you? Let's say, we've done our case and helped them build a business case for that. What are some of the challenges that you're hearing, and how do they get started after that?
Sure. So let's kind of divide this into the greenfield implementations, the brownfield migrations. So let me handle the question with the brownfield migrations first. So those customers who have been running on ECC for a long time, and now they're ready for their journey for S4. Starting with phase 0, the preparation has been the key, and that's where the anxiety, the fear, and all that emotions come into picture, that their long journey and tenure with SAP ECC environment, at least, has been, pretty good, but in-depth, exercise and the effort that has gone into it is a long-hauling effort, right? Now, phase 0 becomes very important, understanding what is changing. So the readiness check report that is there, the Signavio that helps. And we also have similar tools of heat map, business process heat map, Kelvin, So with all that, the idea is that figure out what is important and slice and dice, don't boil the ocean. And with that, it reduces the anxiety, the fear, and kind of lays down the land that what is going to be the effort and the journey to move into S4. Right? There are a lot of aspects about innovation, but identify the ones, prioritize them, and then scale it out. Not everything has to be day one, but make your business objective and innovations aligned with the migration process. Right? And on the other hand, when we talk about the customers who are going net new onto RISE, for them it's all about leveraging SAP's best practices. Stay with the best practices as much as you can. There are extensibility options with BTP that can help you keep the core clean and still get the benefits of your very specific processes, which in the layman term we call as custom processes. You don't have to muddy the water in the core, but keep it outside there, and then move into the cloud. So that brings all the best practices for the RISE with SAP.
Well, and if I could just jump in here too, really quickly, Martin, because you talk a little bit to Sandeep about the anxiety, and I know we talked about this a little bit yesterday, and it's something that we don't talk about a whole heck of a lot when you see a lot of these, marketing slides, and you hear, all the folks on stage at Sapphire, but there is an anxiety around these IT projects because at the end of the day, there's so many that there's failed deployments, or they have all of this, just bad blood from these IT projects that have gone sideways, or they've wildly bastardized the system so they don't work. And so there's this fear that's involved with, if I'm going to take on this project, how painful is this going to be? So how do I really mitigate this risk to take this on? Because we have to do something. And so in any case, I think that anxiety and that fear that we can help these customers overcome and say, hey, there is a path, there is a migration. We can help this in a way that's painless, that's automated. And again, too, leveraging best practices so that you can, really manage the business without overly customizing the areas that really don't need to be customized, right? Because what we were talking about yesterday was everyone thinks that they're a unique snowflake. Well, there's only a portion of your business that really is, right? The portion that makes you special and different from your competitors in the market, right? Focus on those areas where you're going to innovate and do different things. But when it comes to, these best practices to really stand up, ERP, why reinvent the wheel? We don't have to, and take that pain and that anxiety and that fear that goes along with these IT projects out of the conversation. It just makes it that much easier. I mean, for me personally too, one second too, for me, I've sat down with a lot of customers who are living in an ERP world that they're not even using the system in so many ways, or they've spent, $30 million in years and years. They only deployed financials in North America, right? So, nobody wants to embark on something that's going to have that end result either.
Yep. No, those are good. Those are good points, Christine. I think I'm curious because you spent many, many years in an executive role at SAP on the software side, working with partners. I mean, now you're on the partner side. So how do you think that changes, or what are your perspective to mitigate some of those fears and concerns? Like you said, there's a lot of anxiety over these projects, and obviously we want to make sure they're successful and follow best practices and things like that. What are your thoughts about that? Moving from the software sales side of it to the implementation side of it as a partner. You've worked with many, many partners, I'm sure, in your number of years. What are your thoughts? I think people would like to.
I think that SAP has a go-to-market strategy with partners for a reason, and one of the reasons is that resources are not infinite. In fact, they're incredibly finite. And so not just from a pre-sales resource perspective, leveraging SAP resources to help showcase and highlight the software across all lines of business, across the entire software portfolio. SAP needs help. So we need partners to do that. So whether it's for a specific line of business, whether it's for ERP, whether it's for, like TSP, for example, having a practice for not just S4, but also success factors, and now with UiPath and automation. So every partner tends to have their own, position in the market. Also industry, right? SAP goes to market by industry. It's a big differentiator. So I think that going to market by partners is super important from a pre-sales resource perspective. The other is from a services perspective. That's also at SAP. It's a really small arm of the business, which is why it tends to be pretty expensive, tends to be reserved for some of the bigger customers in the market that tend to have a little bit more of a delicate landscape, if you will, that require some more of that heavy lifting and max attention. And so leveraging partners that have that expertise, but also have been certified and have that experience working with SAP customers, solutions, products, and of course how SAP has built out a roadmap and continues to innovate. Using these partners, it's kind of the only way to really scale as SAP continues to be the leader in this particular field and industry. So for me personally, it was a very natural conversation to have with customers when we would bring in a partner. I never really got any pushback from it. Customers sometimes leverage multiple partners depending on their business, depending on what their area of focus was. I don't know if that answers your questions. I always loved working with partners. I loved working with TSP.
That's great. I think it's a good perspective coming from, there's different sides, right? I mean, obviously they're from the software side of it to the partner side of it. It's a little bit different perspective. So that's great to hear.
Yeah.
Sandeep, from a solution standpoint, what are you hearing from customers? Are they looking to, when they go to Rise, are they looking more to, step in and modernize their platform, or are they kind of taking slow steps and doing a lift and shift first? What do you say when they ask concerns about that? How do you help them with that?
Sure. It's a mix of both and a very delicate balance, which you have to plan it out. There are on the one end of the spectrum, pretty much lift and shift, just bring me as it is, and nothing wrong with that. There is a business need, and just bring the technology with a new platform, new infrastructure, new hardware. On the other hand, there are customers who just want a complete business transformation. Their primary reason to move to S4 with Rise is because they want to have a full business transformation and get the best of all the things that are there. But then most of the customer come somewhere in between, where they want to have innovations, but for them, there are conflicting priorities, conflicting projects. They want to get into S4 as quickly as possible and get the benefits out of it. So there are mandatory innovations that come as part of S4, which you have to adopt. But then there are others which you can pick and choose and create a roadmap and journey for that. Not everything has to be phase one. You can pick the ones which are most relevant and most business impactful and doesn't hurt your timeline, budget, cost, and all, and then create a roadmap for other innovations to be absorbed as you move forward. So there are ways to do that. It's just about every customer is different, every landscape is different, business needs are different. So you have to pick and choose what really makes sense for you. So it has been a case by case in most of the time.
Okay, great. For those who are thinking about adopting Rise or in the middle of a implementation on that, can you share maybe like your top 3 lessons learned that you've seen across your vast experience over the number of years and all the different customers you've worked with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, absolutely. Means for customers who are migrating from ECC, for them, if you're doing a lift and shift plus some optimal innovations that are there, it's always important to understand that the landscape part of it will bring new features along with some new capabilities. So gear up for that. Have your cloud infrastructure ready, cloud first mindset, and prepare yourself before you start that journey. So from an infrastructure and all that. Second is from a change management. Although it's a lift and shift, with we say minimal, still there are changes. There are mandatory changes. There are some innovative changes. Be prepared for that. Never take change management lightly, right? And this is maybe an opportunity for data cleansing and integrations and all that to be relooked and see where can you have a clean core concept, bring some of the complex enhancements out of your ECC environment, bring them to BTP, and move with an S4 with a much cleaner, as a system, as an application. So that phase zero exercise is very crucial because you set the foundation right and you have a better S4. Else you will land up with nearly what ECC is. You may have a good system, then you don't have to worry. But if you think that there are opportunities to clean it, then doing that is a great exercise.
That's great. Christine, how about
Yeah, I would also say too, kind of adding to that as well, is just having governance in place internally and having a steering committee and having a cadence wrapped around that, I think is critical to keeping the project on track and progressing. Because that's a question that comes up a lot with the customers. How do I keep this from stalling? How can I keep this going? And how can I keep the momentum and everyone interested? And it really is having that executive buy-in, having executive sponsor, having steering committees, and having governance that everyone sits down and really tracks the progress of the project and understands too, where are things going right? Where are things going wrong? Where can we pivot? Where can we work on things? And just to keep things going and keep things moving. And it's always a three-pronged approach, right? It's the customer, it's SAP, and the partner. And everyone needs to get together and everyone needs to have an executive sponsor. And it has to be coming from a place that's customer-centric, right? Everyone has to really get engaged and roll up their sleeves. Otherwise, again, if it drags on and on and on, you're running the risk of it not just not being deployed properly, but not happening at all. I mean, we were talking about this yesterday, Sandeep, right? With some of these, is it a failed go live, or is it a company came in and acquired a business and then that team rolled off, or this CIO left and went to a different company and now this guy came in, and so the project just went off track, and then now it's just kind of, now you have all of this investment that's just sitting out in the universe. It's not, nothing's being done with it. So it's really hypercritical that it stays on track. Is what I'm trying to say, and the only way you can do that is if you put some governance in place.
Absolutely. And another topic, Martin, just as a food for thought for listeners, and maybe that could be another podcast series, is about automation during the implementation or migration, right? So there are different aspects of it, but if we just talk about migration, then automation in migration exercise is a great tool. You have different RPA opportunities and certain tools that are available in the market that help with the system migration. Not automating the entire project, but the system migration, which is a heavy lifting of it. You automate that, you free up some resources, both from the consulting side as well as from your home team, to work on the innovations, data cleansing, clean core, and all things which are most valuable for you. Leave the day-to-day exercise of system migration to the bots and the automation tools. So that's something which we are seeing as a very prevalent out in the market now. There are opportunities to look into that.
So are you saying that automation is kind of not a nice to have, like if they're doing a project like this and adopting RISE, automation is like a must, because that'll help speed up the process, minimize risks, etc.
Yeah, it gives you a factory approach. So you are taking the human errors and aspects out of the mix to a large extent. You are bringing factory model into your migration. Sure. The system migration is something that is just like an upgrade. Like you have a laptop, you do a Windows update. You don't have to have an army of resources do your Windows update. Then why do you need army of people just to do a system upgrade? Sure. It's a pretty sequential, structured approach. So automate that and use those tools which are available. Free up resources for the important things that are there.
Okay, great. Christine, do you have any stories you could share with us? I'm sure a lot of people who are listening, I think they want to hear some real life stories that you had, maybe some successes or something that they can, I know we talked about in the beginning about developing ROI, building business case, the governance. Sandeep talked a little bit about some of the lessons learned or tips from an implementation perspective. Is there something you can share with people in terms of how to ensure to make sure we make this a success, maybe to allay all those concerns we talked about and things like that?
Yeah, I have being in the mid market at SAP. To me, I was at a pretty big advantage because we had so many cycles, so many customers, not just with install customers making the move to Rise, but also with sorry, my dog, his friends are out front, so he wants to play with them.
Looks like Cooper's a little excited there.
But we also did, we were a huge part of the SAP Net New Engine as well. So I was fortunate enough to see a lot of these projects and visit and meet with a lot of customers across all kinds of industries. And I do have to say, every customer is different as to why they want to embark on the journey.
Yeah.
But I do have to say that, it's not even a matter of just like you're in for a ride ahead of you, but you have to be prepared. Okay, I can't talk right now. Hold on a second. I told you this might happen, right? Didn't I say that?
Yeah.
Does he want to get out? Does he want to get out?
Oh
He
gosh,
wants to participate,
there's funny
maybe.
news out there. Cut this.
Okay.
What was the question again? My experience with these customers. There's, like I said, I just have had the pleasure of like going through so many of them, and I think that the customers that are the most prepared, that really cross their T's and dot their I's from the beginning. Sandeep mentioned phase 0. That was something that wasn't talked about very much, when this was first a conversation we had with the customers moving off of legacy.
Yeah.
But I think more and more that phase 0, the design phase, getting the core clean, really locking in that methodology. They've now really have fine-tuned better, more automated ways to make that migration to the cloud and to over to more modern assets in the cloud. And so I think that, there have been those early adopters at SAP, but I think now just over time, it's just gotten a lot smoother. I think customers, just in my experience, have also gotten a lot savvier with these IT projects because they are doing all of the right steps to avoid some of the sins of the past that they've dealt with before in either previous IT projects or just in ERP problems altogether. So yeah, I also think too that when you attend Sapphire, you attend the ASUGs, you really put yourself out there. You're part of the industry roundtables, really leveraging all of the resources that are available to you in the market, taking advantage of everything that's out there to help prep for these big projects, only puts you in a right place and in a positive path forward. So every customer that I have engaged with that has been successful has really put in their time and due diligence.
Okay. Is there any other topics we want to talk about that'll really give people really some good insight and saying, this is a nugget that I can use because this is exactly what I'm facing in terms of, projects like this or adopting Rise. And we talked about some of their concerns from a technical standpoint, from a business standpoint, things like that. Is there anything else that you can think of that we could cover that it would really help people that they don't know about from reading brochures or all the marketing stuff that they listen to?
Yeah, I would like to say that one of the things that I learned along the way is, especially because, carrying the entire SAP software portfolio, not just ERP, but across all lines of business, I was very receptive and open to the fact that our customers and SAP customers are not just SAP agnostic, right? They're leveraging all types of other technologies in the market. They're building their own stuff that's their secret sauce, making them special in the market. They may have acquired businesses that are leveraging other technologies and they need to do some consolidations. There's all kinds of other technologies out there in the universe that you can't be naive to, that also need to be considered in these bigger IT projects as well. So I think something that I learned as just as an account executive myself is seeing big picture, right? Not being so laser focused on just SAP, but what really is happening, within the entire technology stack, and understanding that there's going to be other considerations, other integration layers, other components to modernizing back office that might affect other technologies within the IT stack, if you will. So I don't know, Sandeep, if you want to weigh in on that. This is just me, talking and learning, because when you sit down with customers and you ask them, a zillion discovery questions, right? You also want to understand too, what are they running that's really critical to their business outside of just SAP ERP?
Yep. Sandeep, do you have anything to add to that?
No.
Christine, you covered it all. So Sandeep, I'd like to ask you a question. What are you seeing was when they start out the project? Are they just going directly into jumping into migration, or was there an exercise that they can do like in a phase 0 to help them prep and be successful for that? What is it out there?
Absolutely, very important aspect of it. As I said earlier, like phase 0 is important. There are a lot of elements that customers evaluate. And one of the key thing over there is sandbox. A sandbox you can have, for like greenfield migration implementations, you can have a learning hub or a sandbox which is available from SAP Marketplace. Or when you're doing migration, particularly, you want to have a full life cycle and see what it means. In that case, you create your own sandbox, which is a migration of your production or copy of production or quality system. So like we have this offering where we help our customers. We take a copy of their production environment or quality environment, have their choice of cloud hyperscaler as a place, and we do a full migration, including custom code migration, customer vendor integrations, and things like that, and give them a working S4 environment. So what they get is they get a full working environment, which their team, the business, they can explore and see what does it impact. It gives them a full kind of a vision out on the table that what challenges they're going to face, what will work, what will not work, what innovations are there. That helps them get prepared for their actual S4 migration journey when they start with their dev, QA, and then production. So sandbox is kind of a must-have now. And in all honesty, people do that. Some do it as an exercise to evaluate and get ready. Some do it just before development because you don't want to touch development right off the bat and then say, what's going to be migrated and how it's going to be. So the earlier you do it, the better off you are.
Okay. Sandeep, do we recommend, and we may want to cut this if this is a bad question, I'm just trying to educate myself here too.
No, it's fine.
Do we recommend a customer play around in a sandbox on their own, or do we recommend that they have a little bit of air coverage or some adult supervision from TSP in there kind of helping them navigate the environment?
Sure.
But that's a good question. That's a good question.
No, absolutely. I mean, this is very valid. And the thing is, when we do the sandbox for them, the idea about the sandbox is for their people, business analysts, IT team, to go and explore it out themselves. They have been working on ECC for so long. They know how to work on SAP. Now, we give them a little bit of education exercise, learning, hand-holding, and all that goes as part of it. But most important thing, they have a system which they can work on their own at their leisure, at their pace, and explore that what is available, how it's going to work, what has changed. That anxiety of change and new system coming up, or even exploring the new functionalities and all, they can do it at their pace. So absolutely, means if your question is that can they do it? Absolutely, I mean they should do it, because this is their own system with their data and with their configuration, with their custom enhancements. Everything is there. Just the migration into S4.
That's great.
Well, great. I think we cover a lot of topics today. I want to thank Christine and Sandeep for sharing your great insights. I think they were very valuable, and I think hopefully that people will benefit from that. In our future series of our podcast, I think we want to cover a lot more things. Everything from how does AI impact what we're all doing today. We've got a lot of things about success factors in terms of onboarding migration, a lot of things centered around automation and RPA. So we've got a lot of exciting topics going forward, but this was great to talk about specifically about Rise of SAP and some of the things that lessons learned that that people can really use. So thank you very much, both of you, very much for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Christine.
Thanks, Martin. Thanks, Sandeep.